Hi, Steve. This is Mark. I'm a member of the New England Stoics. It's a club in the Massachusetts area. And we had a recent camping trip. And I wanted to let you know that we played the Sunday Stoic podcast as part of our Stoic camp. So, great job. It was interesting for the group to hear. Some of them were first-time listeners. And keep up the good work. We enjoyed the secular Sunday broadcast of Stoicism, much like people who go to church each week would listen to a sermon. Your piece a couple weeks ago on Memorial Day weekend went over it very well. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Wisdom,
Prudentia,
justice,
Justitia,
temperance,
Temperantia,
courage.
Fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life. This is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. I will not be able to keep up this radio voice for the entire episode. My name is Steve, and this podcast applies ancient philosophy to modern life. Why in the heck would you want to apply ancient philosophy to modern life? Times have advanced. 2,000 years ago, there was no internet. There were no cars. It was a little bit different, but human nature has not really changed since that time. We still have stress and competition and war and famine and family issues. It's all the same. And there were some deep thinkers back in the day that really thought about how do we as humans live on this planet within this universe in such a way that we're living logically, not overreacting to things, but living a fulfilling good life for the benefit of all. And that is why I like to talk about Stoicism. Now, I'll bring in other influence as well. We can talk about other philosophies from time to time because there are things we can learn from all sorts of worldviews, from Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and Aristotle and Confucius, etc. But we focus on the Roman and Greek Stoics. Mostly the Roman Stoics because we have a lot of their works remaining. However, this week will be a little bit different. This week, we are going to talk about a modern issue, a more modern issue than they could have dealt with, than they would have had to worry about in ancient Rome. And that is technology. And we've bashed technology on the show a few times, which is funny because we're using technology, to record, broadcast, and listen to the show. But technology, as we know, is quite addictive. It can be. It's meant to be quite addictive. And I'm awfully jealous of some folks in my family who get on Facebook like once every 3 weeks, and that's it. And because when I have it, I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And I don't know why. And I post a bunch of pictures, and I don't know why. I like taking pictures. It's something I like to do, so I naturally then share them. But then I feel kind of dirty later, like, what's wrong with me? Am I pimping myself out to the world? Like, what is this? So I have actually cut down on a lot of social media use. And if you are a listener to the podcast, I applaud you and thank you for sticking with me because I don't use technology a lot as much as I should probably, like reaching out on Facebook and on Twitter. I post some stuff, but I just can't keep up with recording a show, being a dad, being a teacher, keeping my grass trimmed, and being on social media all the time. So my website hasn't been updated in forever. If anyone wants to be a webmaster for the Sunday Stoic, shoot me an email, sundaystoic@gmail.com. It's just not something I really want to do. It automatically pops up with new podcasts when I put them on, but I haven't added things to it. I really would like to add resources and things for Stoics. But all of this technology just bogs me down. Like, can you imagine if you subscribe to everything you hear on advertised on podcasts? Like, hey, you can get dog treats delivered once a week by subscribing to this. Hey, I've joked about Stoic Box. You can sign up for Stoic Box and get a preferred indifferent once a month. You can sign up for toothbrushes and razors and food all shipped to you, all carried by hydrocarbons, across the country and delivered to your door. you can be subscribed to a million things and not even realize it. It's automatically billed on your card, right? You can be on your phone for 2 hours a day or more and ignore the world around you. It's crazy. But there are benefits to this technology, and that's what we're going to focus on today. What benefit have you gotten from technology in your pursuit of arete or eudaimonia? That's jargon, Stoic jargon. Arete is just human excellence or virtue, and the pursuit of eudaimonia, which is just like, think of that as the flourishing life or the good life. It's more internal than external. We're not talking about the rich life. We're talking about the life well lived. So I asked that question to some of my listeners, and in fact, I got several replies from my patrons. Thank you, patrons, for writing in. I also got some feedback from some folks on Discord. If you want to be able to chat with me from time to time, I have a Discord channel. Not very many people on there right now, so when I do log on a couple times a week, you can one-on-one with me pretty easy on there. If you are interested in that, shoot me an email and I will send you a link to sign up for the Sunday Stoic Discord channel. So I got some feedback on there as well. So let's get right to it and hear what our listeners have to say. Brian, who is a patron, which means he's awesome. I think if you're a patron, you already start out as almost a sage. I'm pretty sure that's how that works, so consider that. Brian writes in that he really likes to listen to Massimo's podcast, and I recommend you check that out. He said that technology helps with his ability to be a better Stoic. He says, I would say that podcasts have been my primary source for routine Stoic studies. Massimo seems to be the most consistent with daily quick readings and interpretations that I ponder during my daily dog walks. Another bit of tech that helps is any journaling, and it's done through. He does that through an app. I always use notes and jot down anything I want to remember as it relates to Stoicism. It's easy to search and pull it back up. And he also asks that I remind everyone when Stoicon is coming up. And I don't have the dates in front of me, but it should be pretty soon, or Stoic Week anyway, should be pretty soon. Stoic Week usually happens right around the time I head out on vacation, which is sometime after the July 4th here, the Independence Day holiday in the United States. So I bet it's coming up, and I will look into it and send out an announcement soon. Kate, another patron, pretty much a sage. Thank you, Kate. She says, hi, Steve. Really enjoying the current episodes. Looking into specific concepts in more depth in the original texts. I have been thinking a lot recently about what Stoicism can say about the pervasive use of technology in our lives. It sounds like Patrick Usher and Gabriel Galuzzo gave a relevant talk at Stoicon a few years ago, but the video is no longer available. Jack Reeves wrote an interesting article related an interesting post on modern Stoicism. Would you have any interest in doing an episode related to this? Well, I very well might do that. I have to look into it. And then she says, while there's a lot of focus on the negatives of technology usage, I'm particularly curious about ways technology might support Stoic approaches. For example, asynchronous communication could be better for allowing us to test impressions before responding. Push notifications can support regular reflection and journaling, and of course, many more people can learn about Stoicism through online resources. Those are excellent ideas. So, let's look at those one more time. Asynchronous communication is a good idea, even though we know people often don't examine their impressions. But if you're not communicating back-to-back, like texting immediately, you can come back, read something, ponder on it, and then reply after testing your impressions so you don't make a fool of yourself or respond in haste. So that is a way to be Stoic online. I agree. Push notifications, though, super annoying, and I have them almost entirely shut off on my own device, would be very helpful, in like you said, in the case of reflecting or journaling, like ding, time to journal, ding, time to sit down and meditate for a minute. And once again, you're right. A lot of people find Stoicism through these online resources. One of my listeners that I chat with on Discord, we'll just use an abbreviation for his username, DGO. I don't know how to say it exactly, so I won't make a fool of myself. Notes that he says, it's an interesting question. Without technology, I would have never found Stoicism. I enjoy the daily reads and podcasts from the Daily Stoic and Massimo Pigliucci. On the contrary to that, it has made me more aware of how much technology takes me out of the moment. I feel dumb checking on what the vibration was in my pocket rather than listening to my wife or watching my son. And I also feel frustrated at work when calls, instant messages, and people stop by taking me out of whatever I was doing. I may not have been as frustrated before, knowing what the impact was on my attention. Then he says, what a ramble. Well, I know it. Massimo, once again, plug for Massimo's podcast, is a great daily podcast, and the Daily Stoic as well. And those things are excellent tools, but you are right. Technology can take you out of the moment. You're into deep work or focusing or paying attention to your loved ones, and then bing, your technology goes off and pulls you out of that moment, takes you out of the present. And it's hard to seize the day or to live in the moment, hic et nunc, living in the now when distractions are firing off constantly. Another one of my listeners on Discord says, commenting on the previous comment, says, DGO hit the nail on the head. It was through podcasts and articles that I was introduced to Stoicism, and it is typically through these mediums that I am discussing it with other prokoptons. While meditation is not specifically Stoic, mindfulness and reflective meditations are Stoic practices, and I have used the Aware app on Android to practice that, though I admit I need to rekindle the habit. Finally, I just started using Massimo's Guide for New Stoics and will be doing the exercises starting tonight and for the next year. When doing things like this, I like to do them in writing, but I also like to digitize, so I will likely scan the exercises and store them in a digital format, likely on Evernote or OneNote. This way, even if the book eventually becomes lost or destroyed, I can continue to reflect on the exercises so long as I can access them digitally. And that was from Tribalion, user on Discord. I also heard from Dan on Facebook. Dan said, I live in a tiny New York City apartment, so I no longer own physical books. I download ebooks and listen to Stoicism podcasts on my iPhone. Implementing a Stoic practice is, of course, contingent on first improving one's understanding of the Stoic framework, so technology has been indispensable in that way. I also use an app that assists me in tracking my daily task list and checking them off as I complete them. This has helped me in my development of self-discipline and temperance because I don't watch TV or otherwise slack off unless my task list is on track to completion. Among more mundane chores like doing the dishes and making the bed are tasks like my morning and evening meditation and my daily Stoicism reading goal. Improving the order in my life has improved my progress toward eudaimonia. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not the master of himself. I believe he was talking about control of the passions in that quote, but I think he was also referring to the virtue of self-discipline. Adam writes, whenever I can, I counsel musicians in sound engineering via Facebook. I have 12,000 plus members in a group for that. Also, I try to empathize and encourage my friends and acquaintances in chat or voice in difficult times. And Natasha says, I only use Facebook for my groups. They are educational and related to topics whereby I learn information and share resources. So excellent comments, everyone. It sounds like Dan really has used technology to his advantage to figure out how to make order in his life, to order his mind, and to order the world around himself in an organized fashion to help build self-discipline and eudaimonia. That's really interesting. Thank you, Dan. And Adam, you're helping people online. That's a great way to use technology for a Stoic goal. And Natasha Brown, you say that the Facebook groups, that's mostly what I use Facebook for as well, because I got sick of all the other crap. And so I am only using it for groups for the most part, and keeping the Sunday Stoic page up as well. I thought of creating a Sunday Stoic group. I think I did once, and then it never went anywhere, and I deleted it. But if we ever need to create a group, let me know, and I can do that. But yeah, so one thing I saw several times in all of this was the use of Evernote or OneNote. I've been using a similar feature on my phone for sometimes I make checklists, or I see a passage I want to talk about later, and I take a picture of it in my phone and I put it into, I think it's just called Notes on my Android phone. And it's been really handy for keeping track of different things that I want to remind myself of. So that's been handy for me as well. Now, I myself I don't go on Facebook groups that much for Stoicism. I don't know. There are a few I like there's one on Stoic practice that I've really enjoyed from time to time. But I'm not one to go get involved in discussions online. It's just not my thing. I'll share things online and then I go away. I'm not really, if someone has a question, I'm happy to answer it, but I don't go hunting for arguments and things. And so I just haven't been terribly well involved in there, which probably is why, I don't have a gajillion downloads a month, is I just don't throw myself out there a lot. But I myself think technology is useful for journaling, like several readers said, and for keeping track of things. I have been enjoying the use of my Kindle. I just recently acquired a Kindle, but I had been using just an app on my phone, a Kindle app. But you can highlight passages in text, and then you can go to a page where all your highlights are saved, so you can kind of create your own Stoic quote resource that way. I find that very handy. Other apps that I found useful, technology that's helped me, I'm using the Couch to 5K app. I've used it in the past as well, and I'm starting it again. I'm up to week 4, I think, right now. So I've been progressively running more and more each day using that app. That's been handy just as a self-discipline thing. If you have a hard time, I've never been a morning person. If you have a hard time getting up, there's an app called Alarmy. Alarmy is an app where you take a picture of something in your house, from the opposite end of your house from your bedroom, and your phone alarm will go off in the morning, and it won't shut off until you take another picture of that object in your house. And so it makes you get up and get out of bed to shut your alarm off. So I used that for a while. Now I have a kid, and my habits are just slowly changing out of sheer necessity, but I used that and found it to be quite useful. There's that Stoic Reader app that's only available for Android in that kind of off the kind of underground Android store, but it's quite useful. There's a lot of posts about it on some of the Stoic Facebook groups. That you can get all of the Stoic readings on there. It's pretty cool for that, so that's been nice. Also, LibriVox.org. I have used it a little bit for Stoicism anyway, but it's a source of free audiobooks. Same with Gutenberg, source of online books that are in the public domain. So those are handy as well. So yeah, those are a few of the apps I've used, and I'm glad. I know I still think I might be missing one of the folks that wrote in, because so I'm sorry if I left you out. It's just I asked for this feedback and then got swamped with lots of things, and I may have misplaced one or two of your messages. But I know someone mentioned that they listened to my podcast. It was like, yeah, there you go. There's a meta comment within the podcast. You're commenting on listening to the podcast as a way to grow, and I appreciate that some of you see this rambling of this fool in Arkansas as a way to learn a little bit, and I appreciate that. So that's what the listeners had to say. If you have anything else you want to add, ways that technology has improved your eudaimonia, your seeking of arete, of good in this world, let me know. Email me at sundaystoic@gmail.com or shoot me a message on Facebook or Twitter. Likewise, email me and I'll shoot you a link so you can join the Discord chat group if you want. And by the way, patrons, if you don't already know, patrons have access to their own group where we can actually voice chat with each other instead of just text. And that reminds me, patrons, I sent out an email saying, hey, patrons, as a perk for being a patron, every now and again we'll do a Ask Me Anything. So feel free, patrons, to submit me and ask me anything without my solicitation. Just email me, hey, here's an Ask Me Anything question. But Brian said, if you could ask any of the ancient philosophers anything, what would you ask them? I'm certain there is something you've read or is often debated that a simple question would resolve if you only had the chance. Yeah, there's a few of those. I mean, for one, I'd love to go back and ask Zeno more about original Stoicism and also about his Republic, which seemed like an interesting book about his kind of free love, libertarian paradise or something, to see what was really in that book. But I would like to talk to Seneca, because I really admire Seneca, well, at least his writing, but I don't know for sure if I admire Seneca the human being. I'd like to know, were you involved in the murder of Nero's mom, and things like, because a lot of charges were leveled against him after his death by people who were his enemies and things. So it's really hard to get a clear picture of what all is real and what all is not when you're so far away in time, and the only people who wrote about him were people that didn't like him. I'd like to know a little bit more about Seneca and his role in the Nero administration. Wouldn't mind talking to Epictetus. I feel like if I talked to Epictetus, though, he'd just yell at me, like say, "What the hell's wrong with you, fatso," or lazy bones, or whatever, or get to work. But wouldn't mind probing him and talking about the dichotomy of control a bit and how to ensure what roles we should take in life and when to act and when to stay at home and just think about it. That would be another thing I wouldn't mind just clarifying a little bit. But meanwhile, I want to thank my patrons. And so, Tom, thank you so much. I mean, Tom, dang, man, you're my, you went above and beyond patron-wise, so thank you very much. Tara, Reese, Preston, Patrick, Polly, Nicole, Nick, Michael, Lyman, Lucas, Kate, Eric, Donald, David, other David, Dan, Kat, Carlos, and Brian. You make this show possible. Everyone else, you should say thank you to all of those individuals. They give me the ability to buy microphones when mine break, to host the show online without going broke, and things like that. So thank you so much to all my patrons. If you want to become a patron, check me out at sundaystoic@gmail.com or Sundaystoic at Patreon. So it's patreon.com/SundayStoic if you want the actual web address there. You can support the show. My patrons generously are supporting the show at, I think, about $90 a month right now is what this massive podcast pulls down. And that's only, I jokingly put as a goal on Patreon. If I make $5,000 a month, I'll quit my job and just do this podcast every day. So, if anyone's out there is a millionaire, knock yourselves out. You can donate to the Sunday Stoic. But seriously, thank you for your support. I am working on potentially making some new rewards for patrons. I want to do a little bit of writing. I'm thinking about making a year-long of a Sunday Stoic book based on past episodes. I just got to find the time. I have a lot of ideas that never amount to anything because, quite frankly, I don't have time. And time is one of those precious commodities, right? So I can tell you my ideas, but they're not promises. So working on some possible new rewards for patrons. Also wouldn't mind doing a book with like 52 Sundays worth of Stoic readings and my commentary based on old episodes. I also wouldn't. I'd like to make just a guide, just like a 5-page guide to Stoicism with no lingo in it at all, no indifference or all that lingo we have to learn to understand Stoicism. Just a guide to life based on Stoic philosophy that would just be free to patrons or free to anybody, depending on how that goes. Those are things I'd like to work on in the future. Of course, support from patrons helps make that more feasible and more possible, and I appreciate everyone's help with all of that. Also, patrons, if you're interested, I would like to set up, once again, I've tried this a few times with minimal success. One is because of my crappy internet at home. I have decent internet at home sometimes when the wind blows right, but it can slow down, so it's erratic. But I'd like to do a chat with you either on Discord or on Google Hangouts sometime in the near future. So I'm going to pick a date sometime when I have time, when my summer semester's over and I'm done teaching. Pick a date and we're going to meet, and I'm going to put it well in advance so as many of you as possible can chat, ask questions, things like that. Because I really want to thank you in person, if at all possible. In fact, I'm going to make a new patron reward at the $1 or above level. If we ever meet, I will give you a hug. How's that? There is a reward for you. All right. So thank you, patrons, and all other listeners. At the end of today's episode, I'd like you to listen, because I changed. I don't know if I'll do this for every episode, but at the end, I put a live rendition of the Sunday Stoic theme. I was playing guitar at someone's house. They had a drum set, so I said, let's do my podcast theme with a live drum kit. So we tried that out. See if you like it or not. Patrons, if you like it, I think I'll post it if I haven't already on Patreon. You can use it as a ringtone if you want. All right, everybody. Great feedback from everyone. Thank you for telling me how you use technology in your lives. That's been great. Next week, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about the Stoic view of charity, because we, in Christianity anyway, charity is one of the virtues, right? Like there's the 4 cardinal virtues, but then there are these other kind of more religious virtues. And I've heard people criticize Stoicism for not necessarily having charity as one of its virtues, and I think we could argue it's part of justice, and I want to just comment on a few things I found while reading that, in my mind anyway, supports that hypothesis. So stay in touch, email me, join me on Discord, and have a great week. Carpe diem.
Thank you for listening to The Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review The Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com.